Call of Duty Black Ops 3 is kind of a hard game to talk about since I'm extremely conflicted about the story and what it does. This is the third game in the Black Ops storyline developed by Treyarch. At this point, Treyarch has basically become the go-to team when it comes to Call of Duty, as each time Black Ops has come out, they break sales records and the fan base specifically prefers this series over the past several that has come out. Looking back, since Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops has even been my go-to series of shooters, especially Black Ops 2. They did rather interesting things with the campaign and gave very slight choices to the player to alter some aspects of the campaign. The characters, setting, and guns were all fantastic, and it's a shame to me that Black Ops 3 is quite possibly the worst campaign in all of Call of Duty, excluding the PlayStation Vita title that was hot garbage. They broke sales again with Black Ops 3, but that is definitely just for the multiplayer. I honestly think the movement in this game is a step back from Advanced Warfare since there is no more slide dash, and you seemingly can just fly through the air for a while in the multiplayer. However, when going back to the multiplayer for this series of videos, it was actually the most fun I had so far. You get abilities that at times can make you feel a bit overpowered, and jumping around can be a bit much, but the basic shooting and map design is fantastic after all these years, and has a more active community still compared to Call of Duty Ghost and Advanced Warfare. The main reason I am so conflicted with this game is because of the campaign. It does some interesting things and they even hit a real story of what's going on. Perhaps they hit it too well. This game feels more like Treyarch wanted to not do a Call of Duty this time around, but had to due to them being part of Activision. I'm pretty sure I only noticed one tie-in to the previous Black Ops games while playing, and other than that, the only other connection is that it takes place in the future. This feels more connected to a game like Titanfall with the amount of robots and tech there is in the game, and perhaps Titanfall is actually a much better game, but that's besides the point here. When you start the story off, you'll notice a few things right away. For the first time, you get to choose the gender of your character as well as a few presets of their design. This was also a breath of fresh air for the series, but I'm pretty sure this has yet to happen again since. I chose to play as a male character, and perhaps that was a mistake because I can't stand the voice acting for him at all. He sounds and acts like a generic military guy you would see on a straight-to-TV movie. The next change they also made was to allow 4-player co-op in the story. I believe last time they had co-op in the campaign was Call of Duty World at War, and I'm pretty sure that was just 2 players. I didn't get a chance to do co-op with this, but I'm pretty sure it would have made the campaign better. After the introduction, when I turned on subtitles, I noticed the first thing that was a bit odd with the story, and that they never gave your character a name. On the subtitles, it just says player. At first, I just assumed that it was just to make sure that you know it was your character talking, but as the game goes on, you never actually have a name. On top of that, this is, I believe, the first time your character actually talks during missions. I could be wrong, and maybe they did during the other 2 Black Ops games, but it's been so long since I played them that I'm not sure. The first mission is a rescue mission, and you get to see some of the changes that technology has done to the world with the airplane tower and to some of the rail design. You also learn that weapons are encoded to the person holding it so that you can't actually pick up weapons, but you always be getting ammo and there are ammo crates scattered throughout the game. After saving the guy you're after, you are then asked to save another man, Khalil. Apparently your partner, Hendrix, is familiar with the name, as well as another man on the radio named Taylor. As you start to escape, you meet up with Taylor's team and see how they're basically like human Terminators and destroy everything in their path. When first playing, you immediately go, I want to do that, and it's a smart showcase of power too. At the end of this level, your team and people that you found get rescued and are in a transport container that gets picked up, but you were unable to get inside of it for some reason, even if you were standing in front of it the entire time. You then try and run for it and get attacked by one of the robots that you've been fighting, and he destroys your body more than the guy from Robocop. He rips off your arms, breaks your legs, and beats the shit out of your chest. Taylor then saves you from the robot and goes to rescue you. This is where the first strange thing really happens with the story. If you read the log at the beginning of the mission, it is apparently written in the past tense from Taylor, and he states that you were the only survivor out of everyone, and that you eventually died due to complications after the surgery. I will get back to this later, but that's something to keep in mind as I go forward, because the rest of the game already may seem pretty different, and if I keep talking about that aspect, it may get overly complicated. You then are in the next mission inside of a train with Taylor. You are immediately confused and then the train explodes. Just then everything stops and you are told that this is a simulation inside your head. There are people in the military, like the ones in Taylor's team, that use direct neural interface, or DNI for short, to connect with one another. It gives them a big advantage on the field as they can communicate through thoughts as well as see what the others see and even interact with electronics on the field. This is the main thing used throughout the rest of the game, and the rest of the missions is teaching you some aspects of it. I like the ideas of this, but not so much for a Call of Duty game. You can send out swarms of fire bug things, explode enemy robots, and so on with the press of a button. But the shooting is still the same and does the same amount of work and damage at the same time as using these skills, so I didn't experiment much of them outside of 2. When using the DNI and being linked with each other, memories can also be shared inside of each other, and that's where the main idea of the story takes place. Because you were equipped with the DNI right before the surgery, you get to experiment and practice with it before the surgery is done. It's a smart way to get your brain used to it. However, towards the end of this level, you learn that you can also connect with someone else's DNI as they're dying to get their thoughts and memories to help you with your cause. But by doing so, you are basically injecting yourself into their brain, and it is too much for their brain to handle, leaving them brain dead and essentially all the way dead. This comes up later in the game and probably the best mission too. At the finale of this mission, you start to hallucinate and have a panic attack of robots coming to attack you like the one at the beginning of the game. This is most likely the part of the mission that you are actually dying in the real world, and the rest of this game doesn't actually happen, and it's basically your life flashing before your eyes, so to say. Again, if this wasn't a Call of Duty title, I feel they could have done more with this idea. The whole premise of this game's story is that your memories and Taylor's memories are combined and blurred together, and they seem like it is real and happening in front of you. You learn about a CIA Black Ops site that is seemingly back online, and you are sent to find out why. A bad guy group called 54 Immortals are also going there too. There isn't much I can say about this enemy group as they seem to just be there to be bad because of a major catastrophe that happened several years prior to the events of this game, which killed several 100,000 people. There are now superstorms, which is one of the most visually stunning levels in a Call of Duty game. All this is kind of just randomly mentioned as well, even the level with insane hurricanes. You were just exploring the level at the same time and just happened to be there. Once you get to the part of the Black Ops site, you find out that the CIA members were brutally killed and believe this is to be the work of Taylor's team as they were the last ones to have been there. Hendricks constantly doesn't believe that, and for just about every fucking line for the rest of the game, he will say something that they didn't do it, or someone has lied, or that your other partner Kane could be lying too. It sucks and gets annoying since it happens non-stop throughout the game. You are then tasked with finding them and bringing the whole team in for justice. Eventually, as you find them, you believe that they have gone crazy and keep hearing mentions of a place called the Frozen Forest. There is also mention of a thing or person called Corvus as well that may be part of the cause of the initial disaster all those years ago. As you find the team, they are all rather crazy, and you end up killing each one of them one by one. Diaz is trapped in some machine, and when trying to free him, you end up killing him. This also may be the part where you pass some of the craziness onto your team as well. As you track down the team, you eventually get into a fight with Hall, who is probably the best character of the game. This mission is devoted to her character as you dive into her mind as she is about to die. You try and uncover her memories about what is going on. You experience one of her favorite battles from World War II because of how much she admired it and studied it. The entire time you seem confused as to why this part is here, and she starts to question it too since she doesn't understand what is going on either. She tells you everything that happened with her team as you progress through her memories, and she gets more and more fragile and in pain. She learns that she is dying and wants it to end. Eventually she tells you to fully kill her and the mission ends. Her voice acting and delivery is some of the best I've heard, especially in a game like this, and especially compared to the main character.
Relax. Imagine yourself in a frozen forest.
So, was it worth it?
There isn't too much to say about the progression towards the finale, like the rest of the game, as it kinda just happens and some parts aren't really explained. After you confront Taylor, he pulls out his DNI as he knew it was causing his brain to go crazy, and then Hendricks comes up and kills him. Hendricks is now the new villain as he has gone fully crazy. The new goal is to hunt him down and stop the madness from happening, and ensure that no one who has been exposed to the possible evil program Corvus can escape, including you. Hendricks has a prisoner who was in charge of the program that destroyed all those lives all those years ago, and as Hendricks kills him, you shoot him. Both are now dead as you pull the trigger on yourself.
Stop it. Whatever it takes.
You are then inside seemingly another simulation as you come to grips of what's really going on.
Hey. You still with us?
What have you done, Hendricks? You let this thing consume you, destroy everything that you were!
It's not like that. It's not like that at all. The artificial intelligence, let's call it Corvus, after its place of birth. It wants to help us.
How is this helping us?
Would it make it easier if you could see it? If you could see it right now, would that help you understand? You've been fighting it. We all have. You just need to relax. The frozen forest, it's real. And it's what comes next. Corvus has given us a way to live on after death.
You're not Hendrix. You're not real. None of this is!
Your character keeps repeating the Frozen Forest lines and gets more erratic as they do. You want to put a stop to the Corvus program, who appears to have the goal of giving people life after death if they choose to accept it. You seemingly destroy the program and purge your DNI and wake up in what appears to be the real world before going to the simulation. As you walk towards the end, you hear Taylor saying the same Frozen Forest lines, but calmly. Once you reach the exit, someone asks your name, and you say Taylor. There are apparently a lot of speculation here, and some people assume that Taylor took over your body and is escaping. This isn't true. The entire game seemingly takes place before the first mission of the game, but extremely altered as there are basically two minds in one. You experience what Taylor did with Hendrix, but with different bad guys since the player character only knew about Taylor's team, so he imagined them as the bad guys. Kane, who seemingly is the love interest, is the ex-girlfriend of Taylor. She gave him a bandana that you see him wearing the first mission of the game. When you first wake up, you see her walking out of the same room, and later in the game, you experience her giving you that bandana, even though it was actually to Taylor. Hendrix never even had special prosthetics or DNI implemented in him either. The player character just imagined that part. I'm all for this convoluted mess of a story, but this was all figured out from needing to do research after beating the game, as well as knowing ahead of time that this takes place in your head. If this was in another game other than Call of Duty, it probably could have worked better. In Spec Ops The Line, the character there imagines something's happening to him and is slowly going crazy, but they gave plenty of clues throughout the game as well as actually explained it in the finale, unlike in Black Ops 3. What if as you progressed, something started to seem off and your brain started to fix it and prove that it's actually something different? They could have made it more psychological than what they did here. I understand they wanted to try and tackle death, and they did give some clues to that, with the crows and Corvus, since both seemingly mean death and acceptance of it. But playing the game without having interest in exploring the story made it very underwhelming. I'm pretty sure I died more in this campaign than most others combined. I got rather fed up with it and turned the difficulty down just to experience the story. This is also odd since I did complete parts of the story on Harden years ago. The time to kill on most enemies is way too long, and since the game was made by Treyarch, they use infinitely respawning enemies all the time, and in spots that they really shouldn't. There are several occasions where you fight the same walking tank and the tactics stay the same. Shoot the weak spot, shoot the rockets after, repeat 3 times. This probably occurs at least 6 different times in the game, and several of them at once. You even go down a linear hallway since you may have cleared it out so fast you may not notice that some enemies were dropping down from above and ended up shooting you from behind. This is the most frustrating campaign I've experienced in this franchise, and is more noticeable going back to it for this video series. It is nice to be able to customize your character's class before each mission, since you can't pick up weapons unless you have that ability picked, and there are even several loadout jobs sprinkled throughout each level. They made some interesting ideas with this, but overall, this campaign is 100% a skip after all these years. It's also extremely odd that most of the cutscenes run at 30 frames per second instead of 60 frames per second, when other games didn't do that. Odd choice, but perhaps it was the help of loading, but I'm not sure. However, when it comes to multiplayer, it is definitely better than the previous years. The level design and weapons all feel very effective and not cheap when killed by them. The only time it may feel cheap is when the enemy uses their special ability, which can usually one-shot you at any time, but you have to build up the power to use it over the course of the match. The mobility adds a good deal of variety into the layouts of the levels and how you get around them, much like from Titanfall. I'm even shocked how well I did during some of these matches I did for this, but as an overall package, it is still probably best to stick with the future title, Black Ops 4, compared to this one. But people are still playing it, and it's still a blast to play 5 years later. Overall, I'm extremely disappointed going back to this game after 5 years. I'm glad I got to re-experience it with the knowledge I knew going into it about it all being in your head, and that it's just you experiencing your memories before you pass on. It's an interesting idea, but the missions were rather terrible. They didn't go far enough with it, and they also left the main story for the player to figure out on their own time. Every other game in this franchise has a clear story and goal, with perhaps a twist or new goal added that this game lacks. They really could have tried to change the formula with this one, but they didn't seem to try hard enough for it. The multiplayer was great to go back to, even though I was unable to see the zombies mode as everyone who probably stuck with it was probably playing the DLC they added for it. This game also proves that people are definitely more interested in the multiplayer, even with the reviews down. It's still sold better than Advanced Warfare, which I believe is to be a better game. But it shows that they know what they want to try and do when it's their turn to make another game in the future, even if some disagreed with it.